Welcome to the Winedown, an afternoon podcast where two techie blokes sit down over a bowl of wine and chat about what's happening in the world of tech. Enjoy while Scott and Nick open up about their week in technology.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the Winedown. My name's Nick Beaujard. I'm here with
Scott.
Hello, Scott. How are you? And I see you have a new microphone, sir.
I've hooked up some different audio equipment to get a better result. Yes.
You sound so much better. It's like the dulcet tones of one of those late night Love Shack radio presenters, really, isn't it?
That wasn't quite my intention, but let's go with that. Good, right?
There's some deeper tones coming through. It's a lot warmer. I'm feeling more friendly towards you already just by listening.
Oh, there you go. I probably shouldn't have used that old mic on the floor sitting across the room and tried to, think that was a good experience.
Oh, anyway. No, it's very cool. So let's begin. Where are we? What are we drinking?
Where are we? We are still in our individual recording studios this week, also known as home. However, what have I've got an actual, I've got a 2019 Parker.
Nice.
Now, this one's a Shiraz. It's a Coonawarra area, but it's usually you get the Cab Sabs down there. But Parker do a great drop, and it's not overly expensive either. They do a really good, just sort of, I don't know, $25 a bottle sort of red, and it's a great performer. They do some better stuff too, but yeah.
Well, being the lockdown wine down where we can have our own bottles of wine, which I think is awesome. I'm not sure my wife agrees. I'm having a Pass Paley.
Yes. 2016, and actually, that's probably a nice year down there. It's not bad. We should head down the Coonawarra sometime. That'll be interesting. It's just very close to the border between sort of South Australia and Victoria. There, just on the South Australian side. It was named the Aboriginal meaning apparently is honeysuckle.
Oh, okay.
I was sort of hoping it was like red grape or something, but honeysuckle is the definition. I don't quite understand yet how that relates. Maybe there's a lot of honeysuckles down there, but yeah,
could be. I'm not sure wine is a traditional Australian beverage before white settlement. It could be. I just don't know.
I don't know. I seem to remember watching all these medieval shows where you got these big kegs of wine. I don't know.
It did say Australia before white settlement, not medieval England.
Right. Okay. Okay. There you go.
Cool. So after all that microphone shenanigans, what are we talking about today?
So look, it's interesting. I thought we'd just briefly talk a little bit about, do we actually need a phone in today's modern connected world?
I think that's really interesting, and I must admit the title was clickbait because I don't think we're going. And I've watched the view count go down when I say this. We're not talking about mobile phones or smartphones, are we?
Well, yes and no.
Ooh.
And no. I'm gonna pick you up on that one. We are actually talking about those as well.
Okay, so let's start with your hypothesis. What do we need a phone or don't we need a phone? What's a phone? What do we use it for?
What is a phone? Look, I'm going to go forward really boldly and say we don't actually need what we've historically known to be a phone, the old handset on the desk anymore. And look, the people, the average person walking around, driving, will say, no, I've got my mobile. All things are good. Yeah, I get that. But look, larger organisations have got a lot invested in this older infrastructure, being physical handsets on desks. You've also got the historic, the PBX, the little small phone systems that people have had. They used to get like in lots of 4 or 8 extensions, and then someone would come in and plug another 8 extension board on or something like that. And there's a lot of those still around, quite a lot. And as organizations are moving, they're actually starting to think about this now, going, is this important? How important is the phone system? Because in the last year and a half or 2 years, whatever, everybody went home to work. And guess what? You didn't have access to that phone on your desk. Now, strangely enough, some of our clients took their phones home off their desk as well, plugged them in at home, and it didn't work.
Yes.
It didn't work, yeah. So, then they said, what's wrong? Why doesn't this phone work? So, well, let's think about this. It connects into the big phone system in your office. So, yes, well, there's the internet. I said, well, yeah, your phone system is not on the internet. It's
Yeah.
local to your office. And thus mobile phone numbers and redirections and all that sort of stuff happened. And look, when you're trying to do something quickly, all sorts of things appear as solutions. After a little while, they appear as very bad solutions in many cases. So you've sort of got to work through some of this stuff.
So let's pose a question, and this is an interesting one. When I got my first job, I got a desk and a computer and a phone on my desk.
No, they had desks and computers and phones back then.
Thanks, God. And when somebody wanted to talk to me, they'd ring the phone, and we got excited about things when you had direct dial numbers, and somebody could phone a number from outside, and your desk phone would ring, and all of that stuff happened. Yeah. And then the phones on the desk stopped ringing, at least for a lot of people. Maybe if you're a telephonist, they didn't, but certainly the phone stopped ringing because it was far more easy to get hold of someone by phoning their mobile.
Yes, and you are right. Look, a number of years ago, your basic status symbol, I guess, was the phone on the desk. And I remember back in quite a long time ago now, I started work at IBM, and one of the big things was I got a phone. Oh, look, yeah, it's an old clunker of a thing, but hey, it's a phone. It rings, and and I've got a phone. I've got a real number and everything, and I exist. Yeah, yay for me. So,
I had one at Microsoft. I remember that. It's around about 2000. We had phones and stuff. But then, when you're trying to get hold of someone, you might have their direct dial number, you might have the company number, but people aren't at their desks, or they're out at a meeting, or they're out doing something. You end up defaulting to calling their mobile phone.
Well, that's just it. And are we now saying that the mobile phone number is the corporate's asset? And if it is actually a mobile phone supplied by the company, then yes. But if it's your own personal phone, then that goes with you. That has its own issues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I changed my mobile phone number in 2003. 2004, something like that, I think. I remembered my old number the other day, and I phoned the person who has that number now, and I said, are you getting a lot of calls? And she went, loads, still. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting, people still having that old number and never having updated it.
Well, number portability has been around for a while now, so that's not too bad. But if you think about this, you got the old phone system, the PABX, sitting in an office somewhere with the physical extensions attached. Yes, you can then migrate to the cloud to a hosted PBX.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically remove the need for that physical box in your office that is the engine of your phone system, because that engine is now provided magically in the cloud somewhere, and your phones connect into it. But this is really the next stage of that evolution, where do you really need the phone handset on your desk, or is your computer able to do it? In which case, yes, it is. Or maybe an app on your phone is that virtual phone. Now, we call those soft phones. They've been around for a long time, but they're only in the last few years that they've really started to get to the point of being properly usable. I mean, the original soft phones that came out, they chewed battery. They chewed battery like nothing else.
But they also had a reputation for being rubbish bits of software, if I remember rightly, or incredibly expensive. That was your choice.
Yeah, I've seen them for like $50 to $100 for a bit of software, and then every now and then they crash. And to be fair, how often does your old physical analog handset crash?
Yeah, it doesn't crash very often.
No, it's a very simple device refined over many years. And to be fair, look, it's 120, 140 years of development on that product, because in the late 1800s, and this is the whole purpose, they run off minus 48 volts, because that's what the exchange would provide. Those phones were actually powered off the exchange on those.
You can find that out if you get a copper telephone line and put it to your tongue, and somebody calls you. It gives you one hell of a whack. That's something we did as kids. Anyway, moving on.
I've got to admit, I haven't done that, but I'm going to go and see who I can. Yeah, okay.
Don't do that.
Yes. Well, yeah. Look, 48 volts is still 48 volts, even at a low number of amps. So or milliamps, I suppose, really. But
So
the whole idea.
here's a question from the audience, right? We're
Yes.
talking about, you're saying let's move to soft phones and away from the phones. What about this comment? So from someone on LinkedIn, managing the cultural and behavioural change is key for the acceptance of soft phones and headsets. Right? They've been around for decades, but still not mainstream. That's an interesting comment there, isn't it?
It is. And if you went back 2 years, looking at that and going, there is a lot of change that has to happen. It's going to be a slow process because look, it's a telephone we're talking about. It's not some modern thing where people have to really come up to speed pretty quickly. People have been using these things for many years, and look, the reality is people know how to use them.
Yes,
and they work. But all of a sudden, people have had to use them from home, and they've had to force themselves to change in order to make anything work. And I think now that we've actually had this massive forced education program of, no, you're working from home now. This is how it has to work. You have to redirect this, or you have to do this, or you have to answer this way. Your phone is now here. Learn to use it. You have to use it.
That's fascinating, because I think the increase in the online meeting, the Zoom or the Teams, that type of thing, has meant that almost pure voice has become a legacy medium.
It has.
At least in my world, it's like somebody making a phone call. It's nice, but I kind of expect to see them now. It's really quite funky.
Well, Zoom's recently added phone numbers into the mix. You can now go and get your phone calls through there. Microsoft with Teams has become one of the world's largest telecommunications companies all of a sudden by having phone numbers in most places.
I was going to say, didn't they do that when they bought Skype? But we'll move past that.
Yeah, they did. And this is the whole thing. That's where everything's heading. I think the thing is, do you really need a physical phone attached to? Well, it's not going to. Let's take it back a step. You don't really need a physical phone running on analog copper, plugged into phone lines into an exchange. And in reality, NBN's come along and it's ripping out all the copper anyway. And in some cases, you'll get an NTU little termination box from NBN, and it'll have a couple of analog ports on for physical phones if you still use them. And there's a lot of houses out there that do.
So home phone, and I saw a statistic earlier where 2011 we're at 83% landline use, and in like 7 years that dropped down to under 50% of landline use. Now I'm not sure exactly how they measure it, but I certainly know that it's rare to find anybody who can give you a home phone number anymore. Anecdotally, the home phone has disappeared. So my question is, with the home phone disappearing and getting replaced by mobiles, and you'd remember, because we're fairly similar ages, fighting your brothers and sisters for the phone to phone your girlfriend, etc., and trying to have long conversations was really hard. My friend's got 2 lines in, I remember that. But the phone was a thing. But now everybody's got their own unique device, but now people aren't using the phone feature. And I think that's why calls are now so cheap, in that people don't make calls anymore. People will do a video call or send a text or do all these different mediums of communication, with the traditional voice call being less and less.
Yeah, look, it's we've taken what is that traditional voice call. Yeah, you're right, and we've converted it into an app, into an audio stream, into a whatever it is, into another way of performing the same task. We've Uberized it. Maybe
yes, disrupted it, so to speak.
We've disrupted the process. Yeah, I'm not going to use Uber.
So let's go through the various ways people use phones and the ways we think they should go away. Home phones, pretty much on the decline. They just are.
They are. So there's probably a few areas of the population or a few demographics where it's helpful. I will say though that a physical phone in perhaps a common area is useful, because in cases of emergency, the ICE thing, and also in public areas, people know how to use a phone and to use it if they have to. Now, in theory, yes, everybody carries a mobile, but the reality is that's not quite the case. And at least having those physical phones around is good.
So here's an interesting. I love the way you just said that. Everybody knows how to use a phone, and today you're right. You pick it up and you dial a number. Is that going to be the same in 15, 20 years' time? Because
I don't think you'll pick it up. You probably talk to it, And
Yeah, but I was going to say it gets different because, and now on a mobile phone, how often do you actually go to the keypad and type a number? You don't. You look someone up in your contacts and you click on them. Yeah, less and less is that whole keypad dialing a number thing relevant. And I wonder, as we look at it, what were we saying? Millennials are now over half the workforce.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right, and Gen Z are now coming into the work. Gen Z, my kids call it Gen Z. It kind of rubs off, but are now coming into the workforce. So you're getting the people who've never grown up with home phones now coming into the workforce. They're not going to want a phone on their desk. That's going to change, and we see that shift will be fascinating.
Well, and that's it. And they'll say, "What do you use a phone for?" So we use a phone to ring into the shopping channel when they show it on late night TV.
Yes. What's TV?
Channel? What's TV? Yes. Okay. So you're right. And I do see a little bit of use of the mobile number to ring, but a lot of cases it's in the app. It's in whatever the flavor of the app is for the social group that the youth of today are in. They'll use that to contact friends, and it's all texted online, and you'll see them sitting beside each other, texting each other, rather than using a vocal expression.
Yeah, so it's quite funny, and I noticed with my team, which has mixed demographics, I picked up the phone and I just phoned a member of the team, as I do, phone them on their mobile, and they were surprised to have received a phone call, right? And I went,
works, does it? Oh.
Yeah, I should have sent you a message first. I just totally forgot. And now I think about it, when somebody phones me, I get a little cranky, because when I get when you do that whole call escalation thing, you start with a message on Teams or something saying, "Hey, Nick, can we chat about?" And then you do a little bit of chatting on that until you realize you can't solve it with that, and you hit the call button. That's a really good way to fix quick things, but also have an agenda set before you start talking. And I think we're not used to anymore suddenly being thrust into a conversation and having to answer on the fly without a little bit of time to prepare.
Yeah, that's interesting. It does sort of redefine telemarketing, doesn't it?
It does a little bit, yeah. I think over time telemarketing's going to, well, we've got mobile phones and we answer them, but that kind of direct marketing, I think is fascinating, and Matt Cowan we've had on the show, and he'll talk about that in an interesting way. Is that direct market? And I know he's diversifying his business as well and doing direct marketing and other things, but is direct marketing a real way to make it happen? And I suppose it is if you can target really well, but I think with other things it's not. And I got a text at 4:00 this morning from someone who messaged me on LinkedIn offering some stuff everyone messages me on LinkedIn about, and I saw that and I went, yeah, I'm a bit cranky about a 4 a.m. text. Not that I heard it, but
yeah, I had a call at 2 a.m. A few weeks ago from a person in the UK. Blah blah blah. I'm from this company. Hey, we do this, and I saw you do that. We'd love to be able to help you. Blah blah blah. And I said, then they sort of looked a bit deeper and they said, "Hang on, where are you?" I said, "I'm in Sydney." Said, what
time is it?
Sydney. She says, "Oh, it's about 2 a.m. or something. I don't know." But she says, "Oh, this call isn't going very well, is it?"
No,
not at the moment. So yeah, there is that. As we use that single contact number more and more, we sort of lose the identity sometimes. But I'll ask you, do you think you'll have a phone number in 10 years' time?
Oh, that's fascinating. Will I have a phone number in 10 years' time? Maybe in 10 years' time, but probably not in 20.
What if I rang your email address?
Which one?
Do now? Well, that's just it. Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay, so basically you're saying I can ring 10 of your email addresses and you'll answer.
Hey, I got another message popping in. What about this one? Are we losing the art of conversation with messages? Kids talk to me in acronyms. IDK, what you're talking about, really.
In fact, we shouldn't be talking, but we should be typing the response back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but it's a phase. What do you do? I know it's a long phase. It's going to last for 10, 20, 30 years, but I think this will happen until we get those. There's got to be something about this visual or mental implants that does. We're going to get to the holographic version of all of this.
I think it'll happen. I think it's funny when you look at comments like that about how the art of conversation changes with messages. I'd love to see when we started in the workplace what the older generations thought of our behaviors around some things. For example, the mobile phone. And I've had one really since I started work, but they were horribly derided as the time as being, yuppie accessories and all of that kind of stuff. And now it's a mainstream tool.
Oh, look, I had that when they first came out. They said, what's that? I said, well, that's a mobile phone. And they said, and what's that other thing? Well, that's the battery you carry around with it to make it work.
And what's that other thing? It's the aerial you've got to carry.
That's right. No, it looks pretty good. But so Westpac recently, here's an interesting thing. They got rid of all their physical phones. As far as the old handsets and the branches go, and all the branch phone systems, and they're all gone. They've moved everybody across to Teams. They gave everybody an iPhone, and they all run Teams with a phone number in groups attached there. Now, it was a project done with Microsoft, so there was a bit of tweaking and some features and things that were added to work on how does this work. But they are now running physical corded phone no longer.
Wow.
Which means they can exist anywhere. They don't have to have the call coming through to that iPhone. They could actually route it somewhere within Teams and have it appear somewhere else. It doesn't matter. But that's only recent-ish.
I would say if Teams is capable of running the complex telephony that someone like Westpac will have, then it's capable of running it for anyone.
Oh, no, I've got no qualms that Teams could actually do all of the things that are required. My only issue at the moment is that some of the things require are not click through an interface. They're all PowerShell script driven, and you've got to have a certain level of expertise to really get it to do certain things you may want it to do, which sort of creates a slightly higher support overhead than you'd like. But I think over time that's even going to simplify and disappear as well.
Okay, that's kind of cool. So yeah, it's a fascinating. It gets really emotive. I always said when I was running Hub One with Trevor, there was always these questions: do we get into doing voice? And I went, no, we're not going to do voice because voice gets really emotive. People get quite emotional about telephones and voice, and I'm sure Westpac had some interesting organizational change management to do that. And I know lots of accountants I've worked with wouldn't be without their phone. There's a tool of the trade, so to speak. And it really, that's moving. And if so, an organization that's been around for 100 or so years, which is Westpac, which is quite traditional, which is a bank, is able to do that, then there's no reason anybody else can't suddenly give your staff total mobility. They've got a laptop, a mobile phone, and suddenly they can be anywhere and do anything.
Yeah, look, I think you're right, and this is one of those efficiency areas. And you look at there's quite a few of them that exist, especially around broader IT. Around, hey, here's a project that does this and makes that little part of our business a bit more efficient or a bit better than it used to be. This is one of them. It enables so many things. And over time, if you start acting on all these enablers and putting them into your business and sort of staying up to date and current, eventually you start to be capable of generating more and more revenue or market share or whatever it is, how you drive your business, than your competitor that, oh, look, we've got a really old phone system. Oh, it stops us doing this, this, and this. Therefore, you're winning on that front. Oh, we've got this really old system that does something. Oh, that's right. We've got a modern one. It's in the cloud. We can do it from anywhere. So a lot easier to address unknown things that just occur, but you've got systems and processes set up to support that. So it's good.
So keep up to date. And also you'll attract the smarter and younger and cooler staff.
Yes.
Imagine if you've got somebody straight out of uni who's all excited about coming to work for your organisation, and they've got an interview with you and an interview with Westpac. And they go to Westpac and there's no phones and there's Teams and everyone's hypermobile and blah, blah, blah. And they come and see you and it's pot plant in the corner and a cubicle and a desk and a phone. We know who that smart person's going to pick. So it's a way of attracting talent as well.
It is. Hey, look, and Samsung historically have had a lot of phone systems, like the old branch phone systems, the PBXs. They sold a lot of those under the Office Serve brand in Australia. About 3 years ago, they pulled out. They literally didn't say, no, we're going to give you all the, here's the SIP interfaces. Here is the digital version of here's the new features and all the, no, they just worked out that this is a dead market. We're going to run away and choose not to participate.
Isn't that fascinating? So you can sit there with phones on the desks of your staff, but you really are a legacy business if you're doing that.
You are. I think we're really at that point now, especially having the whole work from home thing going on for a long time now.
Yep.
If you're not able to really be mobile and have that ability, then there's something wrong. Why?
Sure. That's awesome. I think we're probably done for today. That was a cool podcast today.
There you go. How about that?
I'm still liking your audio, but anyway, look, that's been brilliant, Scott, and everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment. As you can see, we answer comments live during the show. Please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, click the little bell icon because you'll see when we do new things. You can catch us on audible.com, Amazon, iTunes podcasts, Castbox, your favorite podcast listener, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So we're kind of everywhere. You can't get away from us.
And we have a phone number.
Oh no! We do have a phone number.
You can ring us. Yes.
You can ring Scott. But anyway, thanks so much for watching or listening. We really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Scott?
Yes. Thank you, Nick. Thanks, everyone.
All right. You guys take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.